SADC countries urge to strengthen security and democracy. And in sports, Tanzania Football Federation postpones Azam Federation Cup draw. Good evening, this is Capital News at 9:30. My name is Khadija Zimbwe. First, the national news. The number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the country has increased from 1 to 3 after 2 nationals, an American and a Ghanaian, were tested positive with the virus. The statement was made in Arusha by the Minister of Health, Community Development, Gender, the Elderly and Children, Umi Mwalimu, at a press conference also attended by the Regional Commissioner of Arusha, Mrisho Gambo, who warned against attacks on foreign nationals who are being blamed for bringing the virus in the country.
The first sample is from a man, a citizen of America, aged 61, a resident of Dar es Salaam. The second sample came from Zanzibar, from a man aged 24, a German citizen. More on this patient will be communicated by the Zanzibar Minister in charge of health. So far, we have 3 patients confirmed to be infected with the coronavirus. We've received information from the immigration that there are some people, if they see a Caucasian having traveled from countries infected with the coronavirus, they run away, and some ask them to leave or treat them unfairly. And this has been done mostly to volunteers. So I ask the people of Arusha not to do so.
Ukimwona mtu yoyote yuko Tanzania hapa, anaishi kwa mujibu wa sheria na taratibu zilizopo.
The government has directed for all colleges and universities to be closed for 30 days in order to reduce congestion, being measures taken to address the coronavirus threat.
Ndugu wa Tanzania, kama ambavyo jana tulipotoa taarifa,
just like yesterday we informed you on steps taken by the government after coronavirus case was reported in the country. And as I was addressing you, I spoke about these steps being preliminary. So more is being decided as we go by, and today more has been decided. As you know, some of the areas we've closed down includes the shutdown of all schools, but today higher learning institutions have been added to the list. We recognize that most university students are on leave, so we are asking them not to come back, and those who had stayed behind to write exams, they should to leave immediately so as to reduce congestion. In this group, there are teachers and vocational training colleges who too were supposed to write exams this year, so I'm asking the minister in charge to review the exam and term timetables. We will advise you accordingly. So we urge Tanzanians to be cautious but not alarmed. We will advise you accordingly.
Vyuo vya kati tunavyo pia vyuo vya ufundi, vyuo vya ualimu, na tunatambua vyuo vya ualimu vingetakiwa kufanya mitihani mwezi Mei.
The government of Zanzibar has directed all education institutions in the Isles to close. The announcement was made by the Minister of Health, Hamad Rashid, at a press conference when confirming a coronavirus case of a 21-year-old German national.
Kufuatia hali hiyo, Serikali ya Mapinduzi ya Zanzibar imekutana na kuchukua hatua zifuatazo.
The government of Zanzibar has met and following decisions have been made. First, the government has closed all schools, madrasa and higher learning institutions to curb the spread of the infection. Secondly, the government has put a stop to all mass gatherings such as meetings, conventions, seminars, Premier and Division Leagues. weddings and traditional dances until things have improved. We advise barrier ceremonies to involve as few people as possible.
Hutakiwi kuvaa kama wewe ni mzima na huna tatizo na haitokusaidia chochote.
You're not supposed to wear one if you are healthy. If you do so, then you will not be protecting yourself. This is for someone who is already infected or is showing symptoms in order to protect others from catching the virus if he sneezes or coughs.
Wewe ambaye mzima huna dalili, huna maradhi, huna tatizo hili, haiwezi kukukinga hata.
Head of the National Service, Brigadier General Charles Mbuge, has suspended issuance of permits allowing youth to leave national service camps around the country, being measures to control the spread of the coronavirus. Brigadier General Charles Mbuge made the statement when he toured National Service Camp 841 to inspect virus production activities as well as launch a maternity ward at a health center under the National Service.
Tumefuta likizo fupi au likizo ndefu katika mwezi wote mzima.
We've cancelled short and long leave for this month, and parents or any other visitors are not allowed to come for a visit. And during the 30-day period, we will be at camp training and we shall not leave. This virus is dangerous, therefore we must take precaution and stay in the camp, but we must also regularly wash hands and speak to the youth about it. The service is good. I've been attended well and I hope to be discharged today or tomorrow. I commend management and Dr. Magufuli for services he is providing for his people.
Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa has called on member countries of the Southern African Development Community SADC to come up with strategies aimed at improving security and democracy in order to facilitate implementation of agreements reached in member countries. Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa made the statement in Dar es Salaam when opening the SADC Council of Ministers meeting, which was held via video conference technology due to the global coronavirus pandemic, which has affected several African countries, including Tanzania.
Construction of Julius Nyerere Hydropower Dam along Rufiji River in the United Republic of Tanzania also commenced in June 2019, while commissioning is expected in 2022. Upon completion, the project will have the capacity to produce 2,115 megawatts of electricity that will feed into the electricity grid of Tanzania, Zambia, Kenya, and Uganda, saving both the SADC region but also the tripartite.
In Dar es Salaam, despite government confirmation of coronavirus cases, citizens have continued with daily activities, including in crowded areas, without taking preventative measures against the coronavirus threat. The situation was witnessed at various commuter bus stops and Kariakoo Market, while others have used the coronavirus outbreak as a business opportunity.
There is no water and soap provided. We have no option and have not been advised how to support passengers. We are simply asking God to help us.
Changamoto ni kubwa kidogo kwa sababu
there are a lot of people coming in and there is not enough water. We're asking if we can have running water for hand wash.
Hapana, bado sijakuwa na hofu namna hiyo.
I'm not that scared because things are not that bad.
Pia mashaka tunaja kuwa na hofu, unaweza kuwa na BP, unaweza kujipa matatizo mengine zaidi.
And the Minister of Works, Transport and Communication, Engineer Isaac Kamwelwe, has directed the Land Transport Regulatory Authority, LATRA, in collaboration with other stakeholders to see how to control congestion on public transport due to the coronavirus outbreak.
Ndugu wanahabari, Wizara ya Ujenzi, Uchukuzi na Mawasiliano
The ministry has decided, taking into consideration directive given by Honorable President and the ministry in charge of health regarding taking protective measures against the coronavirus, the ministry is therefore instructing the following measures to be observed, particularly on public transport. We advise upcountry passengers not to be escorted to the bus station by a large group of people to reduce congestion. In addition, I'm instructing all relevant authorities to work with the ministry in passing on knowledge to passengers in bus stations, lorry depots, ports and other areas. This should be done by providing printed leaflets, pamphlets and posters. In addition, hotline number must be displayed in all modes of transport.
Vituo vya mabasi, malori, reli, bandari, vivuko, viwanja vya ndege pamoja na ndani ya mabasi, treni, meli, boti na vivuko.
And that is the end of national news. International news follows shortly. And in international news, Health Cabinet Secretary in Kenya, Mutahi Kagwe, on Wednesday announced that 3 more people have been tested positive for coronavirus, bringing the number of confirmed cases to 7. Now, speaking at a press conference, he said that one of the reported cases involves a Burundian national who arrived in the country from Dubai.
Today, we have received confirmation of another 3 cases of coronavirus. Following tests that were carried out by the National Influenza Center as well as Kemri laboratories in the country. Therefore, we now have in the country 7 confirmed cases. It is very, very important to note that all these cases have been imported cases from outside the country.
1,628 Burundian nationals repatriated from Goma, the Democratic Republic of Congo, have arrived in Burundi. The Burundian nationals were repatriated because they had been living in Congo illegally. They were not our guests, but they entered the country illegally. That is why it was important to return them back to their home country. Luckily, they were willing to return home. It was our will to come back home. We were not chased out of Congo. We are calling for the government to give us security during our prayers. EU leaders have agreed to impose a 30-day travel ban on those traveling from outside the EU due to the global coronavirus pandemic. To discuss these latest developments and more, we have our correspondent from Deutsche Welle, Thomas Sparrow. Thomas, can you tell us what has led to the decision of imposing the travel ban, which has come a few days after the US imposed a travel ban on 26 EU countries?
It is related to that decision by the United States, but it is also related to the increase in the number of cases in many European countries. You might know that Europe has been declared by the World Health Organization as the epicenter of this global pandemic, and there are countries in Europe that have been very, very badly affected, in particular Italy and Spain, but also Germany, France and other countries, and that is why you have had these decisions at the European level as well as decisions at a national level. In particular, for example, in Germany, one of the key measures was restrictions that were announced by Angela Merkel and that include, for example, most non-essential shops, bars, clubs, playgrounds being shut, as well as religious gatherings being banned, all to try and maintain social distancing and thus reduce the impact of coronavirus in the country. Other countries in the European Union, in Europe, have made also decisions to try and prevent or at least reduce the impact, and that includes not only measures like the one I just mentioned by Angela Merkel, but also decisions to try and reduce the economic impact of all this, because this is an issue that is also particularly worrying in Europe and in other parts of the world, namely what economic impact this crisis will have in the short, in the medium and in the long term as well.
So Germany's foreign minister has announced an airlift for Germans stranded abroad. How will this work when there is a travel ban in place?
That is a good question. Germany has issued a worldwide travel warning, in other words, asking Germans not to travel abroad, asking Germans not to plan holidays, asking Germans to stay at home, because if they travel abroad, there could be also problems in trying to come back or even entering those countries where they are traveling to. So that is one measure which the German government has announced to try and ask and prevent Germans from actually going abroad. And when it comes to those Germans that are already abroad, the German government has announced this plan to try and bring them back in different ways. That includes obviously talking to the respective countries, talking to those that are already affected, making sure that the embassies in those respective countries are also informed. So it's basically a very big, very challenging operation to try and make sure that those German tourists that are abroad, and there are many abroad, can actually get back home. It is a difficult operation as well, given those restrictions that you are mentioning around the world.
Now, with the restriction measures underway, what is the economic and social situation like in towns and cities of Germany? Are people still staying indoors? And what about workers? Are offices and businesses closing because of the coronavirus pandemic?
Yes, they are closing. In fact, that comes after that decision announced by the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. It was an agreement between the federal government and regional governments as well, that decision to close all non-essential shops. So, for example, supermarkets or pharmacies or petrol stations will remain open, but all non-essential businesses will have to close. That includes, for example, bars, restaurants, in many cases also swimming pools, for example. So you can clearly see that there is this announcement that has to happen. And if that doesn't happen, so if people still continue to operate some of these non-essential shops, they could face certain fines. But I do think people are aware of the risks that are at stake here, what's at stake when it comes to this coronavirus crisis, that it's not only about the German government making announcements or decisions, that it's also up to every person in the country to understand what's at stake and, if possible, to stay at home and also try and make everyone around them aware of what is at stake. You still see people on the streets, you still see people who maybe are not as aware as they should, and that is something that is of particular concern to authorities, because they believe that social distancing and social distancing measures are absolutely vital to try and reduce the number of people affected by the coronavirus. That is one key measure that Germany has announced. Other countries have announced similar measures as well. But in order for this to be effective, in order for this to actually work, people do have to reduce their activities outdoors, and they do have to reduce meeting with others, for example, in closed spaces. So that is why German authorities, and in particular Chancellor Angela Merkel, have been asking people to comply and to stay at home unless it is absolutely necessary that they go outdoors.
So can you give us an update on confirmed coronavirus cases and death toll at the moment?
That changes very quickly. In fact, it has been changing a lot in recent days. I can say that there are around 8,000 confirmed cases here in Germany. That is a particular concern for the country, although, as I mentioned, there are other countries in the European Union that have been particularly affected more than Germany, for example, Italy and Spain. So this again is not only about Germany making decisions and taking measures, it is also about the European Union as a whole trying to work hand in hand, and that's why the German Chancellor has been very active in that sense, saying that it is not only about the country trying to solve this, it's about the country working hand in hand with other countries that are just as affected or more affected or even less affected, but understanding that this is an international crisis above all.
All right, thank you so much, Thomas, for giving us those updates. As right now, the European countries have been confirmed to be the epitome of coronavirus cases, is what you just reported to us. Let's keep on getting those updates from you, and let's make people understand about the impact and what could be anything positive that will show up in this period where the whole world has been affected by coronavirus. Thank you so much, Thomas. And that is the end of international news. Business news follows next.
Watch Business Edition as we talk to business leaders and experts in sectors that are transforming Tanzania's economy.
We believe that the driver is the customer.
To change the mindset of traditional HR to the digitalization.
Make sure that everybody can get some access to financial services.
And once we understand the vision of our leaders, we then need to be behind them and help them in achieving that vision.
Business have involved mercantile operations, trade guilds, or shared agricultural production, infrastructure, construction, financial sectors, tourism, and mining. Business Edition on Friday at 8:15 p.m.
Welcome back, and in business news. Despite the government directing protective gears against the coronavirus be sold at affordable prices, in Mtwara, entrepreneurs have hiked prices for items such as 250 milliliter sanitizer bottles for 2,500 to 30,000 shillings, and nose and mouth masks from 1,000 shillings to 3,500 shillings. Citizens are the ones affected mostly in purchasing sanitizers, masks and gloves. Right now, even gloves are expensive. Some places sell them between 12,000 to 8,000 per box. Some of us are students. We decided to contribute money to buy masks for 1,000 shillings. But when we reached here, masks are sold at 3,500 shillings, making us fail to purchase them. Tanzania Revenue Authority TRA has collected more than 5 billion shillings in 6 months in revenue being taxed paid by more than 1,000 small gold miners in Geita region. They used to own one license. To us as tax collectors, it was difficult because after sales were done, they would split the money and continue with their lives separately. That is why we had to hold such seminars. Despite all that has been done, the government didn't just take this issue lightly. Although these people were given mandate to handle this matter, but the government remained keen in ensuring that what is collected effectively and efficiently. And the government has directed Tanzania Pesticide Research Institute TPRI to deploy experts along borders with neighboring countries in order to control smuggling of fake pesticides in the country as they were affecting productivity of farmers. Security must be boosted in all our border areas to make sure that fake pesticides do not enter into the country. will also work with other authorities to find possibilities of imposing punishments for those who import fake pesticides. I believe that will be a good way forward.
Kwa hiyo maabara hii
This laboratory is responsible in testing different pesticides from arriving consignments. Some are collected from the field to be tested due to their ineffectiveness. And that is the end of business news. Sports news follows shortly.
Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment of going away. Gay trying to go with him, and he's been dragged through the second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment of going away. Gay trying to go with him, and he's been dragged through the second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Opposition, Joaquinho, he did lose to Lim.
Welcome back, and in sports news tonight. Azam Federation Cup draw that was scheduled to take place tomorrow has been postponed by Tanzania Football Federation. Here's more on the story.
The Azam Federation Cup has reached its quarterfinals, but the teams are yet to know who is playing who, and the draw was to be ran today, but it has been postponed as part of implementing the Prime Minister's call to stop all sporting activities for 1 month due to the coronavirus outbreak. TFF are yet to say when the draw and the matches will take place, with 8 teams still awaiting their chance of participating in the African Confederations Cup through winning the Federation Cup.
Young African Sports Club have suspended all its camps following the Prime Minister's call to stop all sporting events due to the corona outbreak.
In that effect, and implementing the government call, even our other teams, Yanga B, Under 20, and Yanga Princess have broken camp. Yanga Princess had a camp here and had games proceeding in a few days. So we have broken their camp that was here at the club headquarters, and players have gone home. Yanga B will also stop training as they have been doing every day.
Former Chelsea footballer John Obi Mikel has parted ways with his Turkish Super League club Trabzonspor after he refused to play due to the coronavirus pandemic. Here is more.
The player's 2-year contract was cancelled on Tuesday following his social media post confirming he was not comfortable playing until the coronavirus outbreak was over. The professional football player agreement between our company and John Obi Mikel has been mutually terminated. Of a mutual termination agreement, the football player gave up all his forward-looking receivables, Trabzonspor said in a statement on Tuesday. In an Instagram post, Mikel called for the cancellation of the league, saying there is more to life than football.
And Juventus have confirmed that midfielder Blaise Matuidi has tested positive for coronavirus. Here's the story.
The France international is the second player from the club to contract the illness after it was announced on Wednesday that defender Daniel Rugani had been infected. Italy international Rugani was confirmed as the first professional player in Serie A to contract COVID-19. Matuidi, a regular for the Serie A side this season, has been in voluntary isolation since Wednesday and is following a similar procedure to his teammate. Italy has been in lockdown in a bid to prevent further outbreak of the coronavirus, which has already affected several Serie A players.
And that sports item ends our news bulletin for tonight. My name is Khadija Zimbwe. Thank you for watching and good night.